He has covered wars, famines, presidential scandals, the worst things human beings do to each other, and he sat in front of a camera and reported them with composure. Scott Pelley has been doing that for 37 years. Last week, in his first interview since being fired from 60 Minutes, he cried. Not about a war zone, not about a famine, about what is happening inside the building where he spent his career. He said CBS News is on fire. He said watching his colleagues get fired felt like watching his family get murdered. And he said the people now running one of the most trusted names in American journalism have no idea what they are doing. This is that story. 60 Minutes is not just a television program. It is, by any reasonable measure, one of the most significant institutions in the history of American journalism. Since its debut in 1968, it has broken stories, held power accountable, and set a standard for long-form television reporting that no other program has matched. Scott Pelley joined CBS News in 1989. Over 37 years, he rose to become one of its most recognized correspondents, anchor of the CBS Evening News, a central figure at 60 Minutes, a journalist who covered some of the defining stories of his era. He was not a peripheral figure. He was, by any measure, part of the institution's identity. And on June 2nd, 2026, he was fired by email, the day after a staff meeting that, by multiple accounts, had already gone far off script. 5 days later, on June 7th, he sat down with Lulu Garcia-Navarro on the New York Times podcast, The Interview, and he said everything. Understand why Scott Pelley was fired? You need to understand what happened at that staff meeting. CBS News had been undergoing significant leadership changes. Bari Weiss, the journalist and media entrepreneur known for founding the Free Press, had been appointed as CBS News editor-in-chief. Nick Bilton, a technology journalist and author, had been brought in as the new executive producer of 60 Minutes. Those appointments had already generated internal tension. The previous executive producer of 60 Minutes had been abruptly fired. Two prominent correspondents, Sharon Alfonsi and Cecilia Vega, had also been let go. The all-staff meeting, Pelley did not stay quiet. He called out Nick Bilton's qualifications directly, describing them as slender. He declared, in front of the assembled staff, that Bari Weiss was murdering 60 Minutes. The next day, Bilton sent Pelley an email terminating his employment. The stated reason, that Pelley had hijacked the meeting with remarkable incivility and contempt. Pelley does not dispute that he said what he said. He disputes the framing of why it mattered. In his New York Times interview, Pelley made specific, serious allegations. He alleged that Bari Weiss was putting a thumb on the scale on behalf of the Trump administration. He cited specific editorial notes she provided on a segment about immigration protests in Minneapolis, notes he characterized as an attempt to introduce bias into the reporting. He alleged that network leadership had instructed him to include falsehoods and bias in politically sensitive reporting, and that he had refused. He described the new network hierarchy as a deluge of incompetence. People running a news division who have, in his characterization, zero experience in television news. He called for Weiss's removal. He said television is not her thing, and he described watching his colleagues, people he had worked alongside for decades, being fired in rapid succession as feeling like watching his family get murdered. He became visibly emotional during the interview. He talked about the journalists who go into war zones, who risk their lives to bring back stories that matter. And his grief, his visible, genuine grief, was not for himself. It was for what he believes is happening to the institution those journalists serve. CBS News is on fire. CBS News and the new leadership did not stay silent. The network issued a statement pushing back directly against Pelley's characterization. They asserted that Weiss's editorial suggestions had no political motivation, that they were designed strictly to make reporting as fair and accurate as possible. Weiss addressed the firing in a note to staff. She said Pelley had fundamentally broken the newsroom's trust and mutual respect, that his conduct at the staff meeting had left management with no choice. That is the official version, the version that says this was about behavior, not content, about how Pelley expressed his concerns, not whether the concerns had merit. And here is where the story becomes genuinely complicated. Both things can be true at the same time. It is possible that Pelley's conduct at the staff meeting, public, confrontational, describing his new boss as murdering the institution in front of all staff, crossed a line that made his continued employment untenable. It is also possible that the concerns he raised about editorial independence and political influence are legitimate and serious. The firing does not resolve the underlying question. It only removes from the building the most prominent person willing to raise it out loud. Here is what Scott Pelley's tears in that interview actually represent. He is not crying about his career. He has had a career, 37 years, every major story of his era, an anchor chair, a place at the most respected table in American television journalism. He is crying about something he believes is being lost, something he does not know how to stop. The journalists who go to war zones, his words, who risk everything to bring back the truth, they are served by institutions that value what they do, that protect the integrity of what they bring back, that refuse to allow the reporting to be shaped by whoever holds political power at any given moment. That is the promise of a free press, the promise that the story is the story, not a version of the story that makes the powerful comfortable. Pelley is alleging that promise is being broken at CBS, at one of the institutions that has most publicly stood for that promise for most of a century. Whether his specific allegations are fully accurate, that is a question that reporting and potentially legal proceedings will address over time. The emotion behind them is real, the grief is real, and the question he is raising about who controls the news and what they do with that control is one of the most important questions in American public life right now. This story is not finished. Pelley's allegations, specific, named, detailed, are now in the public record. CBS has responded, but a corporate statement is not an investigation. The specific claims about editorial interference, about instructions to include falsehoods, about Bari Weiss's editorial notes on immigration coverage, these are claims that journalism organizations, media reporters, and potentially lawyers will examine. Weiss is a significant figure in the current media landscape. Her appointment to CBS was itself a major story about the direction of mainstream news. Her response to Pelley's allegations will be scrutinized carefully. The broader question about the relationship between CBS's corporate ownership, its new leadership, and the editorial independence of its news division is a question that does not go away because one person was fired for asking it too loudly. The staff who remain at 60 Minutes are watching. The journalists who go to war zones are watching. The audience that has trusted that program for nearly 6 decades is watching. CBS News is on fire. Whether anyone inside that building can put it out, that is the open question. 60 Minutes debuted in 1968. In the decades since, it has interviewed every major American president. It has broken stories that changed laws, ended careers, and forced reckonings that the powerful would have preferred to avoid. It has done that because the people inside it believed, and the institution supported them in believing, that the story was more important than the comfort of whoever the story was about. Scott Pelley spent 37 years inside that belief system. Last week, he sat in front of a microphone and cried because he believes that system is being dismantled from the inside by people who do not understand what it was built for. He may be right. He may be overstating what is happening. The full truth of what is occurring inside CBS News is not yet publicly established. The questions he has raised about editorial independence, about political influence, about who controls the framing of the news that tens of millions of Americans consume, those questions do not require Scott Pelley to be entirely right in order to be worth taking seriously. A 37-year veteran of one of America's most trusted news institutions looked into a camera and said, "CBS News is on fire. The least we can do is ask whether he's wrong." Let me know what you think.